Breaking news this morning on a story that we have been following. A professor at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland has been arrested over his alleged financial ties to China. This just days after the FBI sounded the alarm on China's attempts to steal coronavirus research. A professor at the University of Arkansas was arrested on similar charges last week. And then in January, Harvard's chemistry chief was charged with failing to disclose that he, too, was being paid by the Chinese Communist Party. 2 weeks ago, Senator Tom Cotton told us that the CCP was trying in many ways to steal medical data from the United States to try and come up with a vaccine for COVID-19 before the United States. My sit-down with President Trump included this. We discussed IP theft and the pandemic's impact on his relationship with China and President Xi Jinping. Secretary Pompeo said that he has strong evidence that it did come from the virology lab. We've been reporting this every Sunday, by the way, from early on. You also said that you saw evidence. Can you tell us anything about the intelligence?
No, but we have a lot of information, and it's not good. But you know the worst of all, whether it came from the lab or came from the bats it all came from China, and they should have stopped it. They could have stopped it at that source. I call it the source. Right there.
They made a decision to allow it to escape its borders.
I don't know if they made the decision, but it got out of control. I think more likely it got out of control.
Senator Cotton said that they didn't want the Chinese economy to contract 20% and the rest of the world to contract 2%.
So we were beating them very badly before this. We were beating them between the tariffs and other things we were doing. And we were going up, and they were having a very bad year. They were having the worst year they've had in 56 years.
He had Hong Kong protesters on the street,
and they weren't well, and even beyond that. And we were really doing well. And that is a theory. But here's what I know for sure. They didn't allow this whole thing. They didn't allow people to go into China, but they did allow them to go out to the world, including the United States. That's why Europe is a mess. That's why look at these countries. Russia's having a hard time. Everybody's having a hard time.
So will it get worse for those countries, do you think?
Yeah, it's for some of them. Some have just started the process. We're getting toward the end of the process.
You know, so they downplayed the disease. They downplayed the virus. At the same time, they're allowing international travel. 5 million people leaving Wuhan, going to Italy, going to the United States. Then they start cornering the market on protective equipment, even though China is already the largest producer of this stuff.
That's not the big thing. Look, the big thing is they should have never let this happen. So I make a great trade deal, and now I say it just doesn't feel the same to me. The ink was barely dry, and the plague came over. And it doesn't feel the same to me.
Are they going to renege on it? They're not going to buy the $250 billion, are they?
They will buy $250 billion. They said somewhere I see they'd like to renegotiate the deal. We're not going to renegotiate. Look, I'm not happy about anything having to do with that particular subject right now.
Have you spoken to Xi Jinping?
I have a very good relationship, but right now, I don't want to speak to him. I don't want to speak to him.
Because, Senator Cotton was saying maybe we should be limiting the amount of visas that we give to students who want to study things like quantum computing.
There are many things.
And AI.
There are many things we could do. We could do things. We could cut off the whole relationship. Now, if you did, what would happen? You'd save $500 billion if you cut off the whole relationship. Look, at what point does it, and I said this for years, I said it with other countries also. You know, China's not the only country ripping us off. At NATO, where we defend Europe for nothing, by the way, essentially nothing, I was able to get them to pay hundreds of billions of dollars more. You know my biggest fan in the world? Secretary Stoltenberg.
He has said that to me on the show, actually.
He's been there a long time. He said nobody's ever gotten, we were paying more and more, they were paying less. You have to see the chart of what they pay. So we are defending Europe, and then they're taking advantage of us on trade. It's all one way, and it was all turning, and it is all turning around.
And you pulled back the money.
But we've been proven to be right. Yeah, I pulled back the money.
You pulled back the money from the thrift fund. They wanted to put 10% of the thrift fund into MSCI index. That was Chinese companies.
Billions.
$50 billion.
Yeah, I pulled it back.
Will you go one step further and force that Chinese companies have to follow accounting rules if they want to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ?
We're looking at that very strongly, but on the thrift fund, it's run by the Obama appointments, right? And we said, you got to do this. And we're going to find out whether or not they're going to do it very soon. And if they're not, we're going to replace them very quickly. And we are looking at your second part of your question. We're looking at that.
Because Chinese companies like an Alibaba, any Chinese company, they're listed on the New York Stock Exchange. They don't have to report their earnings the way an American company does?
It's pretty amazing. But here's the problem with that. You know, look, I hate to say it, but let's say we do that, right? So what are they going to do? They're going to move their listing to London or someplace else. You see? Let's say you want to get tough. And you're going to do, you know, everyone wants to be a tough guy. Look, I'm the toughest guy. But what happens is, so we say, you're going to do this and you're going to follow the rules of the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. What do? They say, okay, we'll move to London or we'll go to Hong Kong.